Curtis Selby's time, breaking down the stories every view will unwind. From left to right, we'll see the light. It's balance we're chasing, no fighters fight. Curtis Selby, talking it straight. Let's hear both sides, let's communicate. Politics and reason, let's find the truth. Curtis Selby's here to bridge it for you. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby, keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, let's dive in deep with Curtis Selby. The combo's unique. The combo's unique. Dave's out with the cheerful whistle and guitar riff. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby, keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, let's dive in deep with Curtis Selby. The convo's unique. Curtis Selby, talking it straight. Let's hear both sides, let's communicate. Politics and reason, let's find the truth. Curtis Selby's here to bridge it for you. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby, keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, let's dive in deep with Curtis Selby. The combo's unique. The combo's unique. The combo's unique.
Greetings, everybody. My apologies. It is I, Curtis Selby, your tired midnight blogger. But blogs in this case at 1:29 p.m. I don't even want to make any lame excuses. I'm just going to apologize for being so late. But I see some wonderful people here in the chat, and I'm going to greet each and every one of you, and then I'm going to start talking about the first article of the Constitution, the legislature. Why it was meant to be the most important of the branches of the government, and we have totally screwed it all up. Alright, let's welcome everybody, yeah? Lizzie Armstrong, first one I'm seeing in here. Welcome to another great presentation. I don't know about that today, but I will do my best to live up to your belief in me. Thank you so much. PvP is here and sent me a reminder about a minute after I realized what I'd done. And he was like, "Hey, are you streaming or not, silly person?" Everybody's saying hello to each other. Lizzie saying it is 4:13 a.m. in Australia, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you for putting it in Fahrenheit for us Americans. We don't cotton to that Celsius stuff. John Ponerero saying Idly Bidney style, y'all. Whatever that means, I don't know, but it looks cool. Lizzie sending emoji. Yes, running late today. Hope he remembers he has a stream scheduled. I remembered. I really did. Just something happened, but again, I won't bore you with details. Cool cover poster. Yeah, that's the short version. I lost track of time. Sorry. Sorry. All right, let's dive into the topic. America has a constitution and we messed it up. Okay, that's the stream. Hope you all have a good day. Yep. Let's just let's say that that's the stream. And it was a wonderful stream. Hope you all have a good day. I'm just teasing. I'm trying to pull a deleted scenes on you guys. All right. So let us share the Constitution. I won't read the whole thing, but I just want to review a little bit. Last stream, we talked about the first article. We talked about the preamble. We talked about basically the preamble is the outline for, and also the way that we can judge any law or any action of the United States can be held up to the preamble. If it in some way fulfills that purpose, then it's a good law or a good action. And if it does not, or if it in some way goes against it, in other words, if it if it disunifies people, if it divides people, then it's a bad law. It's a bad thing to do. If it is unjust or if it perverts justice, it's not a good thing to do. If it causes lots of riots and turmoil in the streets, it's not a good thing to do. If it hurts our military, if it causes us to be unable to defend ourselves, it's a bad thing to do. And then, of course, the first article, which was long and lengthy and a little bit complicated, but much more straightforward than the Articles of Confederation. Basically, we have a Congress, we have a Senate, they have these powers. That's supposed to be our most important branch of government. To be a little overly simplistic, they divided the government up into three branches. We had the legislature, we had the executive, we had the judicial. Uh, the founding fathers' belief was that the legislative should be the most powerful, and I would say that the executive, and frankly, sometimes the judicial, has been more powerful at certain times in our history. Let's see if anyone's commenting on that. Lizzie Armstrong, who kind of intimidates me a little bit to have her in here because she really knows her stuff. The concept of legislation is that it aligns with the Constitution. Right on, right on. And id plebnista Norken Forken Perfecten from Kirk's monologue in the original series episode Omega Glory. Oh, was that when they didn't know what they had? They just had it all backward or something. Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that. All right. So let's go ahead, and what I want to do is share. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit instead of explaining, basically reading it all and then explaining it. I want to explain it as we're going along. I wanted to share some stuff about from the Federalist Papers. If you want to me the best explanation of our Constitution, there's two things that really need to be looked at. One is the Federalist Papers. One's the Anti-Federalist Papers. I'm going to start with the Federalist Papers. Right or wrong, that's the side that won. And to me, that was the side that was most articulate and did the best job of arguing its case. I know some very intelligent people who actually think that the Constitution was too restrictive, has led to a tyranny, and I don't entirely disagree with them. I think that it was the best thing we have, and we messed it up. But anyway, according to AmericanHistoryCentral.com, they have an article on the Federalist Papers that I think will be that I think is pretty enlightening. The Federalist Papers, they're a collection of 85 essays that were published in newspapers advocating for the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, authored by Alexander Hamilton of the musical fame, John Jay, who was our first Supreme Court Justice, and James Madison, who produced a lot of really good fruitcakes. What's that, Cassie? Oh, Cassie is telling me that that's actually the Dolly Madison Company. I'm sorry. Yeah, James Madison was our fourth president. So they wrote these essays, but they wrote them under the pseudonym of Publius. That was a reference to a defender of the Roman Republic. Published between October 27, 1787 and April 2 of 1788 in New York City's New York Packet and also the Independent Journal, they supported the U.S. Constitution's ratification. The essays were compiled into a book in 1788, edited by Hamilton, with a second edition published in 1818, edited by Madison. Let's see. Essentially, New York was, I don't want to be completely mean about it, but they were fairly contentious. It was very difficult to get them to vote for the Declaration of Independence. Frankly, they seemed to almost seem to just want to go their own way. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. They were a large state, they were a wealthy state, they were very much more diverse than a lot of the other states. They had more of a Dutch background than an English background. And essentially, it was just very difficult to get all of those people to want to go in a particular way. And so these founding fathers, they were very intent on trying to get the state to pass and ratify the Constitution. They felt that most of the other states would, but that without New York, it would be kind of hollow, and that it would strongly weaken the republic. Let me see what my messages are saying here. Oh, yeah, okay. So they wanted to sell this thing to the American people, and back then, sales was different then than it is now. Nowadays, sales constitutes a guy with slick hair coming up and saying, "Hey, you want a car? Look at this car. This is a good car. You want this car?" Back then, it was people actually understood what rhetoric was. That it was a matter of ethos, pathos, logos. And so instead of just being slick car salesmen, they would actually look at the arguments of the opposition. They would acknowledge the strengths of those arguments, and then they would basically, depending on the argument style, they might just eviscerate it, or they might come up with the reasons why their side was the better side, like the logical reasons. The Federalist Papers are among the most important documents in American history. They played a key role in persuading New York to ratify the Constitution, and they provide insight into the intentions of the Founding Fathers in American political philosophy. They continue to be a reference point for understanding government structure and constitutional interpretation. I was late in my 30s and early 40s when I finally read it, and I was completely blown away with erudition of these people. They didn't have the internet. They had an entire ocean that needed to be crossed with the books and newspapers and things like that that they had to reference. And yet they came up with this incredible study of different governments from throughout history. And I personally have decided that, and I hope I'm not a complete snob, but if you haven't read the Federalist Papers, humbly, not because I'm very great, but because the work was great, I would suggest that you may not really understand politics very well at all. Because I hear some very intelligent people producing some very pedestrian arguments against certain aspects of our Constitution, and the Federalist Papers lays it all out really plain. They explain that the founding fathers looked at governments as diverse as it was even vaguely possible. They looked at the Roman Republic, they looked at the Greek empires, the ancient kingdoms, the they reference the republics of the Swiss and the republics of the Danish and the Native American tribes, and it's just crazy to me, all of the different governments that they looked at and investigated, and seemed to investigate them in detail in order to come up with this Constitution. And Cassie is doing well, sort of. She's lying down on the couch right now. So, Lizzie, I'm just letting you know Cassie's being a really sweet girl, but she's seems to be pooped. And we have a counting sheep. Ahoy to thee. I hope you are doing well. Howdy, howdy, howdy. And there we go. Everyone saying hello to each other. So, one of the great strengths of the Constitution is this is not something, I know people will argue that it was, but it really was not something that was just imposed from the top down. Our founding fathers cobbled this together with lots of study, with lots of debate, lots of compromise, with an intense effort to think about the good of the whole country. And then instead of just imposing it on us and saying, well, this is your Constitution now, deal with it, they laid it all out to the states. And I want you to think about this, something that people don't think very much about. And you can argue that some states had very, shall we say, corrupt elections and things, but every single one of the 50 states, every single one had to approve this thing and say, hey, this is our central government. This is the law of the land. This is what we're going to live and die by. And each and every one of these was put to by a vote of the people of that state. Now, again, I've studied enough to know that there's at least a few states that if you want to make the argument, oh, it wasn't really a fair election, that's fair to be listened to. But by and large, every single one of these states had a largely fair election saying, hey, we want to live according to this government. So you're not just arguing with the founding fathers when you say the Constitution is a big pile of crap. You're arguing with the common man of whatever time that the state entered the Union. And I think sometimes we need to maybe think about that instead of just, well, it was just a bunch of dead white guys. Well, maybe so, but we also had a lot of people who were not white who voted to live under this government. All right. But the Federalist Papers are concentrating somewhat on the whole nation, but focusing largely on New York. And that's okay, because New York was and still is a very diverse place. Each state had a ratifying convention. Special assemblies convened in each of the original 13 American states between 1787 and 1790 to debate and vote on the ratification of the Constitution. These conventions were established to ensure that the decision to ratify the Constitution would come from representatives of the people rather than simply state legislatures. This process was driven by the debate between Federalists and Anti-Federalists. The New York ratifying convention took place between June 17 and July 26 of 1788. New York's lengthy convention featured tense debates over the proposed Constitution and called for a Bill of Rights to be added. So one of the big reasons why we even have a Bill of Rights, and it's so interesting to me, I see certain states, I'll be passive aggressive about it. Certain states are ignoring the Bill of Rights. We probably wouldn't have a Bill of Rights, or possibly wouldn't have a Bill of Rights, if it hadn't been so difficult to sell this thing to New York. So thank you, New York, for that. On Saturday, July 26, New York ratified the Constitution by a vote of 30 to 27. So it sounds like they must have had delegates or something. I don't know. I thought that there was more of a popular vote, but that's what it's saying here, 30 to 27. The Federalists were the proponents of the U.S. Constitution that supported a strong central government, believing it necessary for national stability, economic growth, and effective government. The Federalists argued that the Constitution balanced power among federal and state governments, protecting individual liberties while ensuring unity. They eventually became the nation's first political party. Anti-Federalists opposed the ratification of the Constitution, fearing that a strong central government would infringe on states' rights and individual freedoms. Leaders like Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death, George Mason, and Samuel Adams argued that the Constitution lacked explicit protections for civil liberties. They favored a confederation of states with limited central authority, similar to the Articles of Confederation. Concerns from anti-federalists eventually led to the adoption of the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which secured protections for personal freedoms and eased concerns over federal power. Anti-federalists eventually formed the Democratic/Republican Party. So basically, they were both strongly for democracy and Republican government, but one was just for a stronger central government than the other one. The Constitution met its ratification requirements on June 21st of 1788. If you remember, it required 9 states to agree to it before it took effect. When New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify it. However, Virginia and New York, 2 of their most populous and most powerful states, had not yet ratified it. It was essential to the success of the Constitution that both of them ratify, which is why New York's ratifying convention was so important. Virginia ratified on June 25 of 1788. So basically, they ratified it just before New York even started their convention. That had to be a ticklish time, especially since news arrived so slowly. It could take you a couple of weeks before people got the news of things. I know there was a battle in the War of 1812 where the war was actually over, but the generals hadn't heard about it yet and fought the battle. Um, let's see. The authors of the Federalist Papers, again, are Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. Hamilton was a member of the Constitutional Convention. He was a leading Federalist and supported a strong federal government. He initiated the project to write the essays promoting the Constitution. I believe he wrote the majority of the essays. He collaborated with James Madison and John Jay. Madison was also a delegate at the Constitutional Convention and a political history scholar. And I got to tell you, his grasp of history, you can say whatever else you want of him, his grasp of history was amazing. Let's see what's going on here in the chat. PvP says the founding fathers had a much greater wisdom than the majority of governments now. Agreed. Counting sheep. Hold on, I'm just getting an update now. We found a truck full of mail-in ballots. Turns out the Constitution was not ratified. I'm actually surprised somebody hasn't tried that. PvP, most of our politicians here seem to be clueless to the point that they now only defend our laws. They now not only don't defend our laws, they actually break them. Right on. Lizzie Armstrong, fascinating process pre-founding fathers and during ratification of the people involved in the preamble to the papers from its inception informed the original philosophy. And Lizzie said, it's sad, PvP, where we are now. PvP says, seems these founding fathers were concerned about checks and balances. Exactly. They wanted to make it at least somewhat difficult for the wheels of government to grind, because they knew that all too often the wheels of government grind us down. And they didn't want that. They wanted government to be a tool for the good of the people. It's I'm going to use the analogy of money. I don't know if it's the best analogy, but money is a great servant, but it's a terrible master. You can become greedy. You can become enslaved to working yourself too hard to get it. You can forget that the purpose of what you're doing is only incidentally to make money. The real purpose is to add value and positivity to everybody's life. And that's where the money in theory comes from. Government should be the same way. It should be a tool for the betterment of the people, for those purposes that were outlined in the preamble to the Constitution. If government is not supporting and providing those purposes, then it is at least in danger, becoming a tyrannical thing. PvP, they wanted government to be accountable to the people. Yes. And that's why they made the process where in some way there was some form of an election for the people to decide if they wanted to be a part of this or not. And this is another reason why the papers were so important. Again, this was not just some lords and nobles saying, well, the king hath decreed it, you shall obey or die. Even the Magna Carta, essentially, it's just a bunch of nobles. Not saying that the people of England were free, but that the nobles of England were free, and that if the king was a big dodo head, they had the right to chastise him and things. This was an effort to balance the interests of the rich and the poor. They're again, they took a lot of these ideas from myriad governments. Rome, for example, it had nearly 500 years of a republic that at least attempted to balance the interests of the wealthy and the interests of the poor. I'm having a senior moment. I can't remember the terms, but the plebeians and the other dudes. Sorry about that. They're going into more detail about Alexander Hamilton and John Jay here. And James Madison. Okay. Alexander Hamilton lived 1755 to 1804, founding father of our nation, first Secretary of the Treasury. If memory serves, we still have him, I want to say, on the $10 bill. He led calls for the Constitutional Convention, where he argued for a strong central government. He went on to become the first Secretary of the Treasury, designed the nation's financial system, which included an excise tax on whiskey, and the first bank of the United States. So I actually take, I say I take issue. I used to take issue with there being a Bank of the United States, but I will say this much. I prefer it to the Fed that we have now. So we'll just leave it at that. John Jay, who lived from 1745 to 1829. He was a founding father and the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Jay represented New York on the Continental Congress and helped negotiate the Treaty of Paris that ended the Revolution in 1783. Successfully ended it, I may add. He wrote the Constitution of New York and served as governor of New York from 1795 to 1801. He also negotiated Jay's Treaty of 1794, which eased tensions between the United States and Great Britain. See, we've always been trying to get into arguments over Canada. Thank you, Canada. I'm just teasing. James Madison lived from 1751 to 1836. Had 1836, and it seems like that was a major juncture. I think we'd lost most of our founding fathers by then, if not all of them. Known as the father of the Constitution, Madison was a key founding father, the fourth president of the United States, served from 1809 to 1817, and an influential political thinker. Side note, though, he was terrible at managing militaries, and I'm just going to leave that criticism to the side. Poe Buddy's perfect. He played a central role in drafting and promoting the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. His opposition to the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 led to his involvement in the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions of 1798 through 1799, which established the concept of nullification. Now, I won't go into too many details, but even the founding fathers, even so great of a founding father as John Adams, they were still men. They were still flawed. You hand them power and they would still sometimes do some really chuckle-headed things. The Alien and Sedition Acts, I'm going to oversimplify it here, but basically they subscribed our freedom of speech. They said you weren't allowed to say certain things. And of course, that's BS. We have the First Amendment. We have freedom of speech. I don't care what Democrats may say. It's not a privilege. It's a right. The only way, in my humble opinion, that you can take away the freedom of speech is just to say that the Constitution is completely null and void, or nearly completely null and void. That there are no rights whatsoever. We are not humans. We are machines. And sucks to be you. Do as you say. Nullification, very controversial topic in our time. Nullification basically was the concept that if the law is not constitutional, it is not to be followed. Let that sink in. If the government says, screw the First Amendment, we don't believe in it, you, according to nullification, according to James Madison, are not morally obligated to follow that law. This was one of the concepts that another senior moment I'm having that Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. This was part of where they got their ideas. If it's an unjust law, or at least if it's an unconstitutional law, you don't have to follow it. The Democrats, I would suggest that the more logical and intelligent ones are using a form of this nullification and saying, hey, what Trump is doing is unconstitutional. We don't have to abide by it. I'm not going to get into that debate right now or choose a side at the moment, at least in the context of this, but I just wanted to give an example. These things are still being debated today, and there's still lots of two-facedness about how we're applying these principles. At any rate, as president, Madison led the nation during the War of 1812, a conflict that solidified American sovereignty and ushered in the era of good feelings, 1815 through 1824. What they failed to point out here is that James Madison was actually not a great wartime president. The leading element of what limited success we had was actually James Monroe, who ended up being the president during the era of good feelings. There's a great biography by a gentleman named Unger. I can't remember his first name because I keep getting him mixed up with a soft porn star whose name was also Unger. But anyway, all of this is neither here nor there. Before we go into the processes and principles of the Federalist Papers, let's see what's going on in the chat. Corruption and greed are the main drivers of some of our politicians. And the sad thing is that is virtually universal. Even John Adams promoted and got past a bill that arguably was just a travesty, attempting to destroy our First Amendment rights. I love the John Adams. Don't get me wrong. You read the biography by he wrote some other great biographies. Anyway, John Adams was a great man. He was a wonderful man. But even he, when handed the powers of the presidency, he overshot his authority. He actually, if you're an anti-federalist, you can point to him and say, see, look, this Constitution is too powerful. The presidency is too powerful. This is what happens. And make a good case of it. But you're correct. I would agree that corruption and greed seem to be the main drivers of most of our politicians. PvP says we also have some politicians here driven by far left ideology. It's very scary. Agreed. Ooh, Lizzie Armstrong making a good point here. The French Revolution was fresh in their minds. This is true. The history of the American settlement and its journey from colony to republic. So, yeah, especially if you're talking about the Alien and Sedition Acts. If we're going to be totally fair, or at least a little bit fair to John Adams, he was looking at that French Revolution and it scared the bejesus out of him. He was terrified that maybe we had gone too far. Maybe the revolution, maybe even the American Revolution was just a little too free. I would suggest that he was wrong, but I really, if I'm going to be fair to him, it's hard to blame him. If we're going to try to be fair to the Democrats, it can be scary to see what free speech sometimes does. PvP, you can attest to this. There were a bunch of trolls that just trashed one of Gorilla's streams recently, and I'm a huge proponent of free speech. There are limits. There are limits, and there were some trolls who came on. They said some things that were very not great, that would have probably gotten Gorilla's channel flagged. And look, I think YouTube takes it way too far, way too far. But at the same time, there are some logical limits. The classic example of, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't promote violence, etc., etc. And that's a delicate dance too, because the American Revolution, there was plenty of speech that promoted a revolution. Where do you draw the line on that? Sometimes it's not as simple as it sounds. But I tend to stand more for free speech no matter what. Not saying that those people shouldn't have been booted off the channel, because I was kind of harping at Gorillas to boot them off the channel, but and it got done. But PvP is saying the French government has lost its way, as have many Western governments. No, I agree. And speaking of Gorillas, Kaplaw, glory to you and your house. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are having a good Saturday. And I look forward to whatever your next stream may be. Although I work tomorrow and Monday, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. PvP sent me a video about how they tried to block Sean Foyt's Christian worship event here. Yes. John Ponerero says he missed that stream, and that's okay. It was, if it weren't for the trolls, it was a great stream. But the trolls were there, and they at least accomplished some of their nefarious aim. PvP, the trolls were so bad on Gorilla's Twilight Zone stream on Thursday, we had to remove the video. And I hate that. I hate that happened. But we will not let them stop us. What was that, Cassie? That was weird. Okay. Cassie made a strange sound. And hail to DJ Ronnie G. I guess I should get to promoting you guys as content creators. There's enough of you in here. Please follow and watch DJ Ronnie G. He's got some really cool sci-fi stuff. So please watch him. We've got John Ponerero. He's been making some music. So if you have the chance, listen to that. Going to mute myself for a second. Sorry, guys, had to sneeze. And oh, goodness gracious, this is wonderful. Ezra Carter is here. I think you all know he is an actor. And I'm just pausing because Cassie is making weird noises. Okay, but I think she's okay. Hey, and thank you so much. Let's see. Hold on. Let me get there. Lizzie Armstrong, the approaching industrialization of America would influence the enactment of legislative laws within the constitutional framework. That is very true. Resolute Germ, and also be sure and check out Lizzie Armstrong's content. She makes some lovely videos about basically the countryside and the beautiful nature of Australia. Resolute Germ, he's got all kinds of really cool watch parties and videos. Check him out. They don't ban all violence. That's the problem. And that's a good point. It really is. And we've got Gorilla's Random Thoughts just publishing a polishing the pew pew for some troll hunting. How much XP or Gorilla says we're redoing that stream Monday. It was a great stream. PvP says until the trolls peppered the stream with a certain word. And here's what I've been trying to rush to get to. Ezra Carter, God bless you. $5 super chat. You are so appreciated. You're keeping the lights on out here. Happy Labor Day weekend. And man, I would have completely forgot it was Labor Day weekend, except I worked last night and they beat the unholy crap out of me. 30-year-old Curtis would have laughed at me and said, "Ha, this is nothing. You used to work twice as hard as this." But 54-year-old me was challenged and exhausted. And there it is. But thank you so much, Ezra, for that $5 super chat. I didn't put in a goal today. I figured I was late. I wouldn't add insult to injury. So, DJ Ronnie G saying, during the last Monday show on Thursday, we played my friend's new game and some Metroid. Interesting. John Ponderero. Was there briefly to leave a like and share out, but I didn't pay attention to the chat. Lizzie Armstrong, everybody saying hi. Connie Cleary, no, you never need to apologize for being late. Heck, I was unconscionably late. But Connie Cleary saying, sorry I'm late. Still at the pet shop. Will be in listening mode. God bless you, Connie Cleary. I got to tell you, Connie Cleary, Lemon Pie, and there's a couple of others are amazing moderators. I would say that probably 80 to 90% of the thanks for stopping trolls on Gorilla's stream Thursday was from Lemon Pie. And then 90% of the rest probably goes to Moira Kitty, who is trying to warn us that there were poo-poo heads. And I got some credit, which I appreciate, but they were really the two heroes trying to stop the trolls in that stream. So I hope I was useful, yes, but they were the two that actually accomplished the most. So hold on, I'm going to put y'all on a pause for just a bit. Sorry, guys, didn't mean to interrupt the stream. I just wanted to make sure that Cassie was okay. She's been making weird coughing noises. I think she must have gotten a hold of a TREAT that wasn't provided by daddy that she shouldn't have, but she's okay. PvP, the other mods waked the trolls, whacked the trolls before I could respond. Yeah, and that's what I say. I mean, yeah, I kind of was messaging Gorillas backstage, but Lemon Pie was a freaking hero. I think I might have whacked one troll with my mod, maybe. I think Lemon Pie got nearly all the rest of them. It could have been a fun stream in a way. I mean, whack a troll is really fun, but these guys were more clever and more insidious than most, and I kind of have my own suspicions about who maybe we were dealing with, but I could easily be wrong. All right, so back to the Federalist Papers. The authors primarily wrote independently with little consultation. I know that they consulted a lot more than the anti-federalists did. There was a lot more unity between these three, and that was part of why the process went through. I know there's a danger to groupthink and cultish thinking, but there's also a certain strength to be had from unity. It's a Christian. I know a lot of other religions have it as well, but it's a Christian principle. The idea that we have to be united, we have to support each other. Uh, you have one arrow, you can easily break it, but if you get three arrows and tie them together, it takes a very strong person to break that. Unity is powerful, and that's just simply where it's at. There's a danger to it, but there's also a power to it that has to be acknowledged. Time constraints due to newspaper deadlines limited collaboration. The authors generally agreed on the key principles of the proposed federal government. They believed a strong central authority was necessary to address the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. They supported a division of power between the federal and state governments and the supremacy of the federal government. They argued that separating legislative, executive, and judicial functions would safeguard against dominance by any single branch. And I think that that was true for a great length of time, but I think recently in my lifetime, we've had a breakdown of that separation of branches. Madison and Hamilton shared beliefs about the influence of human nature on political systems. I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said that if men were angels, we wouldn't need government. So, Gorilla's random thoughts. I'm with you there, and I'm the same way. I tend to ignore my phone when I'm streaming. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I try to focus. I try to hyper focus on the stream. My OCD is terrible. If I don't hyper focus on the stream, it ends up not being the best. Gorillas misses the Whackabot streams. I've got to admit, I've been very, very lucky. I've had very few bots, very few trolls. Likely it's due to y'all being great mods, but I've been lucky so far. PvP, I'll let that comment go. Not because I just don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want Gorilla to feel like I'm beating up on him or anything. But it happened. Well, I guess I will. I'll share it because I'll share the next comment. PvP, well, other than chat, Gorilla let some of them on the panel. And John Ponterero is pointing out it did happen to me once. And that if you've ever noticed, I don't let lots of people on my panels. And that's why I had, it wasn't as bad. And I'm not saying that to get on to you, Gorillas. I'm just saying that I was lucky. The troll I had, he really wasn't even a troll. He just, I, I thought I knew the person better than I did, and yeah, some embarrassing things happen. I think that stream is now on Rumble. I took it down from YouTube so I could get monetized. And this is very true. This is very true. Gorilla is kind-hearted. Exactly correct. And that's the sad thing is the trolls take advantage of our kind-heartedness, and they take advantage of our belief in free speech, and they attempt to use that against us. And that's one of the other problems with rights. With rights, there's responsibilities, there's dangers. It's a dangerous road to be free. We we have to take account for the things that happen. Rizla Germ, if you miss bot streams, I can tell you who to piss off to get them. Right. Maybe send us some messages, because I am trying to figure out who to avoid, and maybe I'm not the best at that. But I think I have great people in here, so PvP. Still, some of us have cautioned Gorilla to be careful when inviting folks on the panel. Gorillas, I was allowed on channels. People didn't know me. That's how I got started streaming. I want to help people to be able to get started. See, that's the deal. That's exactly the deal. And I have been allowed on some panels, but it's also, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm a bit reluctant to get on a lot of panels. I feel like if I'm going to be restricting people as much as I am, I shouldn't then turn around and be on a whole bunch of panels and this and that. But the other thing is the chronic fatigue is a real thing. And whenever I tell you guys I don't want to be on the panel, it isn't that I don't want to be on there with you guys. And it isn't that I don't want to be part of the fun. It's that I know that I'm just not going to be entertaining, and I'm not going to be very contributive. So I just contribute the best I can in the chat. I love you guys. So and I thank you all very much for all the opportunities you've all given me. All right. So Gorillas, I missed a friendly bot, shall we say, disappeared after the Russian invasion. I never had any of those friendly bots. I've had a couple of friendly ladies. I mean, not like super friendly, but friendly as in flirtatious. But yeah, I never had any friendly bots. PvP, anyone who wants to join the panel should have a channel with some content. If they have no content, it's a red flag. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Gorillas, come on the panels. I swear I won't play the Indian drum meme on loop if you fall asleep. Oh my gosh. That's yeah. All right, back to the Federalist Papers. Right. So Madison and Hamilton agreed with philosopher Thomas Hobbes, not to be confused with Calvin and Hobbes, that humans are inherently wicked and lack self-control. And it is this flawed human nature that led to a struggle for selfish desires over the common good. Very recently, I read Jean-Jacques Rousseau's discourse on inequality. It was a fascinating read. I actually far preferred it, possibly because I'm 30 years older now, but I far preferred it to his Confessions. And there was a lot of things that amazed me about that little book, but one of them was he just laid out, if you took certain paragraphs out of context, you would think that Rousseau was a bitter, angry, blankety blank. But part of the brilliance of the Constitution, in my humble opinion, is its profound effort at, we know that people are wicked, they're selfish, they lack self-control, they have fun going on streams and being trolls, but we need government. We're not angels. If we don't have governments, well, you see what happens in the inner cities. If you don't have fairly strong governments enforcing laws, you end up with crime and with violence and with riots. And yeah, I know there's debate. Well, the red states have more violence than the blue states, and but we don't have any blue states. We just have blue cities, and back and forth and back and forth. But I would suggest that whether there are nuances or not, it is true. It is sadly true. You get a certain number of people together, and you have to have rules, you have to have laws, because statistically speaking, a certain amount of people do not care about other people. It may be a small percentage, but they're there. And it only takes a few to create lots of havoc for the many. Statistically speaking, there are X amount of unalivings. There are X amount of unwillful sexual contacts. There are serial murderers. And society has to deal with those people, sadly enough. You know, I love the old Wild West ideas. I grew up on a farm. Trust me, I have seen some vigilante justice, and I'm not 100% against it. Having said that, it's better, I think, if you have a fairly strong central government that's saying, hey, if you unalive people, you're going to go to jail. You're going to have a trial by your peers. If they find you guilty, this is going to be the penalty. And I'm not going to get into the debate about death penalties or any of that, but there is a strong and basically a strong penalty that should keep most logical people from unaliving people just for fun, just to watch him die. You know, it is this flawed human nature that's led to a struggle for selfish desires over the common good. This tendency gives rise to factions which they believe should be part of the effective government. I personally think that we need a government by tired bloggers. I think that I should be handed all the power in Washington, and I should be able to pick whatever mate that I choose, and if other people don't like it, that they should get stuffed, and I should be able to unalive whoever I want, and if you don't like that, that's too bad. And I should be able to have all the money and all the ice cream and all the coffee and cakes and play D&D 24 hours at a time. I'm exaggerating some, but you get the drift. Left to ourselves, it's a Star Trek thing. Look what happens when somebody gets these massive psychic powers. They're not mature enough to be able to use those powers for the good of other people. Madison and Hamilton argued that a strong Republican government would acknowledge factions. Reference back to Rome, reference back to Britain in its best moments. They proposed that competing factions would prevent major tyranny. You've got a tension between the majorities and minorities. You have the tension between the states and the federal government. You have tensions between the legislature and the executive. And whether you're pro-Trump, whether you're pro-Democrat, you want some healthy opposition. I'm not, I think both sides take things too far, but you want a healthy opposition. You want that minority basically saying, hey, you can't just have all the money that you want. You can't just have all the weapons that you want. You can't have all the power that you want. You have to work with us if you are going to get the things that are most important and most proper for you. These ideas are notably represented in Madison's Federalist Number 10. It's a famous defense of the Republican style of government. I'm kind of gotten off the track a little bit, but essentially, the center of Republican government is you have a body of people. You don't have a small number of people. You have a body of people who are making the laws, and they are the most powerful. Before the Roman Empire, there was the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic was the Senate and people of Rome. The Senate had two classes: the patricians and I can never remember the plebeians, the patricians and the plebeians. And one was the rich and one was everyone else, basically. Not really the poor, but everyone else. And the rich had a great deal of influence, but so did the majority. And they had a tension, but they had a method of working together to form a body of people that would make the decisions that were best for Rome. And then they had two consuls. They had an executive, but it was weaker than the legislative, and further than ours, it was further weakened by having two instead of one. And basically, for the executive to get anything done, they had to mostly agree, and they mostly had to have the agreement of the Senate. And eventually that all degraded, and there were civil wars, and there were struggles and things, and you ended up with the empire. All right, how long have we've been doing this? For about an hour. So Gorilla's Random Thoughts, PvP. I was on the tons of panels before I had content. Interesting. I was not on many, partly because I was shy, but okay. I guess everybody has their different walk. PvP, that's great, Gorilla. Just saying, you risk having to remove your streams if you get a troll on the panel. That might be a discussion for not for this stream, not for this series, but another thing I'd check is the date their channel joined YouTube. If they just joined, maybe be careful. I couldn't find that Michael guy. I couldn't find his stuff at all, and Moira tried to find him on Kick. She couldn't find him. Okay, PvP. My mouse is doing weird things, and I promise I haven't been looking at the bad stuff. Trouble is, when opposition goes extreme, ideologue, the system gets damaged. Yes. PvP, my suggestions are offered to be helpful. Don't like seeing friends' channels attacked. Agreed. But you know what? Gorillas does make a good point. Risk is our business. We're taking a risk. We're going out here, we're going online, we're putting ourselves out there. We're saying, hey, this is me, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe in. And sadly, you'll have people who just do not like who we are, what we stand for. And maybe sometimes they have good reason, but quite often they're just big dodo heads. Resolute Germ makes a great statement here. The Roman Republic was good on paper, but practically it was a disaster and needed to become an empire. And here we have another wonderful person, Suzanne. Meet you all the way, Susanna. Yeah. Greetings, greetings. I hope all is well with you. Welcome, welcome. We're talking. I was going to be talking about the legislature, but I'm actually just talking about the Federalist Papers. So hopefully this is still useful and hopefully maybe a little informative, mildly entertaining. I doubt if it's very. Uh, but yep, we're talking about the Federalist Papers, the authors, what they were trying to do, and all that. I'm going to finish talking about this article, and then we'll call it a stream. And when I say article, I don't mean this article of the Constitution. I mean this online article, American History Central. Thomas Hobbes was one of the big brainchilds behind these three guys. I would suggest, just from some of the things they've said, that they probably read some Rousseau too, but maybe not so very much because Rousseau would have been a fairly recent-ish author. But that would not surprise me if one of these guys had read him. Thomas Hobbes, 1588 to 1679. Hobbes was an English philosopher who promoted the idea that a social contract existed between the government and the people. Under this contract, the people sacrifice a certain amount of freedom and liberty to the government in return for safety. Hobbes supported concepts such as the divine right of kings. His most influential work, and I hate to admit it, but I have not read it. I know I need to, but his most influential work, Leviathan, was published in 1651. Now, I have had this thought, and I'm just throwing it out for discussion. I do get, and even though I preach against it quite a lot, I get the ideal of globalization. I get that a united world. Remember, unity is strength. A united world sounds like, and maybe even possibly could be, a beautiful thing. It's the whole Star Trek Federation idea, the whole Babylon 5. Let's have this union of intergalactic or interstellar nations. Could we, in theory, could we not prevent so many wars? Couldn't we prevent so much waste and abuse and destruction? Here's my problem with globalization. I don't see that it's prevented any wars. I don't see that it's prevented any waste. I don't see that it's prevented any abuse. I see that Christianity has prevented some. Buddhism has prevented some. The Enlightenment prevented quite a lot. Capitalism has prevented some. And frankly caused a lot as well. And that can be said of all of that. The Enlightenment caused abuse. Christianity caused the Crusade, or by certain arguments, caused the Crusades. Is there a certain degree, and I'm just positing this question, I don't have the answer myself, even though I've thought about it a lot and tried to make up my own mind. Is there a certain amount of freedom you would be willing to give up for a united Earth, for a federation, for a global state? And I don't have the answer to that. That's why I hesitate to ask the question. For example, would I give up freedom of speech? I would say no, absolutely not. Would I give up my Second Amendment? Personally, my answer is no, absolutely not. Would I be willing to give up Republican/Democratic ideals of government? That's honestly the big kicker. That and giving up my right to freedom of religion. If the globalists would ever, like if Carney and Trudeau had ever been like, these farmers have a right to protest. There's stupid crap going on. Let's work with them. Let's try to help alleviate some of these issues. I would have been so much more open to, hey, okay, these globalists are good people. We can trust them. Instead, it seems like they just use soft tyranny and less soft all the time to crush us down. And people can say stuff like globalism is a ship that sailed. Well, I want off the ship if this is the sailing. Maybe I'm being stupid. Probably they'll just put me adrift on an island and I'll starve to death. But who knows? Maybe I'll luck out and it'll be that island of beautiful vixens that love ugly bald men, and I'll live happily ever after. Let's look at the chat now that I've given that long diatribe. Wow, chat's hopping. People saying hello to each other. God bless all of you. PvP, our governments here are breaking the social contract for most of us. This is exactly, this may almost be the statement of the stream right here. Our governments are breaking the social contract for most of us. We willingly submit to certain losses of freedom. For what is it for again? For, let me get back to it. I'm not going to share it, but to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Those are the reasons. And those are to me, the only reasons to ever give up freedom or liberty. I do not want to give it up just so that Trump can get elected, even though I'm pro-Trump. I do not want to give it up just so my party can be the one in power. I don't want to give it up just so that I can get, yeah, I'm on unemployment right now. But do you know how many liberties I'm willing to give up for it to continue? None. If I have to give up a liberty in order to keep it, then I'll just go get another job, which I'm probably not quite working hard enough to do, but I am applying and getting crickets back. Anyway, Republicanism. It builds on democracy. This is a subtle thing, and it causes a lot of arguments and sometimes unnecessary arguments. There are a lot of people who believe that you're being pedantic when you say that republicanism is not democracy. And to a point, I get it. Sometimes people are just being snooty and I know more than you do. But there really is an important and valid point that republicanism is not exactly democracy. It builds on democracy, helping ensure that a reasonable majority of the will of the people is represented in government by leaders who work on behalf of the common good. Something that they don't add in here. The republicanism is the insurance that the majority doesn't simply become a tyranny over the minority. And that's where the pedantic difference in definitions is so important. Democracy unalloyed with any checks and balances really is one of the worst governments you can have. It's like, I think it was Resolute Germ pointed out, the Roman Republic became unsustainable. Part of that problem was that once people learn that they can just vote themselves bread in circuses, I can just sit on my ass and I vote with this right party and I'll have unemployment for the rest of my life and I won't have to work and I can just have eternal D&D parties because I can vote for people to have D&D parties, and I can vote that if I don't like you, you can't play D&D, and in fact, we're going to throw you into the circus and have you unalived. This is great. Until I'm the one voted in to the circus and fed to the lion. Public officials are expected to protect society from corruption, avoid despotism, and not use their position for personal gain. PvP, another great statement here. Globalization is an awful construct. At least the way it's done is awful. Resolute Germ, it makes a good point, and I hope you caught that I kind of equivocated in my statement. I agree with you, actually. The Crusades were a defensive war, but I also know that that's a profoundly unpopular view. And if any of my liberal friends are listening, I can hear them right now. Curtis, you're saying that was a defensive war. No, it's not. All of our history books say it's not. Well, some of our history books are possibly wrong. And yeah, there were, you can point to certain crusades or certain battles in the crusades. And yeah, the Christians are really don't look good in it. But look at the story of El Cid. Look at the story of, what is his name? The guy, the guy in the Holy Roman Empire, Roland. Was it Roland? No, I'm getting old. These stories, and maybe they were just stories, but these were stories of people defending their homeland. So I think that the Crusades have been taken. I know that often they were taken the other way in other times. The propaganda was that the Christians were all good. Well, it's just as bad propaganda to say that the Christians were all bad. So we really do. We need to look at the Crusades with a more objective view. And Resolute Germ is being kind enough to point that out to me. He's correct. Guerrillas, the 267 United States of America. I'm not 100% sure I know what that refers to, but but that's funny. I know that certain presidents thought that we had more than 50 states. We'll leave it at that. PvP globalization, from what I've observed, is about raising the elite while taking away citizens' rights and free speech. Agreed. It's happening here now. Freedom Convoy leaders facing 7 to 8 years in prison for a peaceful protest. Resolute Germ, and I can hear my liberal friends gasp, but I'd be for it. Unite the world under the USA. I'd be for it. Maybe that's bad. I can hear my Canadian friends also, and justifiably so, probably say, no, that ain't cool. But if we united the world under a Republican, just some kind of Republican/Democratic government, and we all were assured of our freedoms of religion and speech and the right to bear arms and some of the other rights. I haven't made up my mind about all of them, but at least some of the other rights in the Bill of Rights, I would probably be for it. But I don't see any such thing. Guerrillas, the UN is a joke. The ICC is worthless. NATO is worthless without us. And I do want to throw an olive branch to my Canadian and Australian friends. They do contribute, but yes, without the Republican elements, without the freedom elements, what's the point of NATO? Why didn't we just let Russia take over and throw us into gulags if we're just going to become despots ourselves and throw truckers into prisons? What was the point of NATO? What good was winning the Cold War if we're just going to become what we fought against? PvP, thugs burning cars, smashing windows in Montreal. They get away scot-free, no charges or arrests to their policing. Exactly. If justice was being established, I could even forgive the trucker thing if your government was arresting these thugs and putting them in prison for 30 years or 40 years. I'm exaggerating. I wouldn't forgive it. But I would see it in a lot more easy light. I would be able to listen to, well, we're just trying to stand up for law and order. You're obviously not, or you'd be arresting these thugs. It's called justice. Resolute Germ, just as long as the right to vote isn't universal, we should be fine. And that is also a controversial point, but I hope I won't lose anybody, but I agree. I think part of the problem is that the franchise is too unrestricted. And this is another controversial point of the difference between democracy and republicanism. Democracy, the franchise is virtually unlimited. In the extreme, everybody, the 2-year-old baby, all the way up to the invalid with dementia, has a vote. That has probably never happened, but I'm just saying that in the extreme, that's where it would be. Every democracy has to find some limit. People with certain psychological issues, people who have demonstrated that they aren't really capable of running their own lives. And that's where it gets so thorny. It's so thorny because my heart goes for as much of an unlimited franchise as is reasonable. But there's that catchy word. What is reasonable? I don't want, and I know some good schizophrenic people, but I don't want schizophrenics voting. I don't want somebody voting who might hear a voice that tells them to go unalive a president. I don't want unhinged, crazy people voting or owning weapons. And this is where, again, it gets very thorny very fast. Lizzie, excuse me, I'm so sorry, is being way too kind to me, but thank you. You're an excellent speaker and writer, Curtis. Excellent for teaching at the university. I would love to teach at a university if my life had gone the way it was quote unquote supposed to, but I don't want to make excuses. Some of it's my fault, and we're all accountable for our lives. But that would be my ideal. And that's one of the problems with trying to find a job. I'm like so tired of just grabbing a dead end job. I'd love to teach or stream or write. PvP, the UN is worse than a joke. They actively promote bad people and attack good people. The UN should be dismantled. Gorilla's random thoughts, Lizzie, and this is about 80% of the truth here. Why I ended up kind of abandoning my academic career. Universities are not keen on my style of thinking because well, look at Jordan Peterson. I'm probably just a little bit of the left to him, maybe. I mean, maybe. But if they're going to destroy him, they would have destroyed me too. But maybe I'm just making an excuse. I have to deal with that possibility. But yeah, I didn't try to go into journalism. I didn't try to go into broadcasting because that was, the libs had the dominance. I did not fit in, and I don't fit in anywhere anyway, but I definitely didn't fit in there. And so I just kind of kept trying to find a niche, and I never really found one. The closest I came was kind of an intersection between psychology and economics. And then I got married, and then it was all over. History is written by the victors. Sad, but 90% true. Lizzie is making a good point. Not all universities are the same, from my current experience, thankfully. And I need to do better at it, but I am starting to look into some possibilities. Um, See if I could get some kind of college going, get my degree, and maybe at least teach high school anyway. PvP, our leaders are actively promoting the losing side in the Crusades. The West might be done soon. Controversial statement, but I find it true. Gorillas, Lizzie, but you're also in Australia, and yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Australia easily might be more open-minded. So who knows? Maybe if I'd lived in Australia or Canada, but I got to tell you, here in Oklahoma, I was at a nexus of, you have a lot of conservatives in Oklahoma, but sadly, academia is not, even in Oklahoma, it's not very strongly influenced by conservatism. And maybe I was wrong to be a conservative, but that's where I landed. And don't get me wrong, not everything about conservatism is perfect, and I've drifted left over time. I think that anyone, consistency is the hobgoblin of small men. I'm paraphrasing, but you do have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to change your mind as you get more information and more data. Ezra Carter is being very kind. Great job. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're very kind. Lizzie Armstrong, we can see what is happening everywhere. From here, though, it is very different. Yeah, every place has got similar issues, but every place has got its differences as well. And I pray that Australia is in a better frame than most places. I would love for there to be some more places that are having better situations. And also, I don't want to get too far off the topic, but I think most of us, if not all of us, agree immigration itself is a good thing. We want new blood. We want people to want to come here and to have them coming and contributing. It's just the way it's being done. That's my only issue. The way it's being done is not it's not cool. You can't just throw your borders open. I wish you could, but go back to people are not angels. I don't doubt, I really don't doubt that 90% or 80% of all of these immigrants are decent people. It's that 10 or 20%. It's those bad apples. And with the borders at least less permeable, maybe you can keep out those bad apples and just let in the good ones, because I absolutely think that good people should be allowed to go and live and do what they want to do. The bad apples need to be, I don't know. That's another long discussion. Should they be in jail? Should they be in rehabs? Should they be, you know, but just letting them into our country or into Australia or they should be dealt with where they're at. That's just my 2 cents. PvP would be happy to join the U.S. It's one of the few nations left with any freedom. Lizzie, we're working hard to maintain independent academic values. That's awesome, actually. And things are getting better in the United States. They really are. Arguably, I know that there's another side to it. And you know, I know that there are people that make good points. Trump is he's not perfect. I side with him. I voted for him, and I'm happy with a lot of the things that he's done. But there's also things that he's done, and I knew this would be because he's a human. There's also things that he's done that I've been like, oh my God, Trump, what are you doing? Why did you say that? Anyway, Lizzie, trying to address a number of other matters. It is challenging. Yeah, life is challenging. It is. PvP Zelensky wants the war to continue as he's getting rich. Carney flew to Europe to get out of Canada. When his trade talks failed, he went to Ukraine and pledged $2 billion to the Ukraine. People on government assistance should not vote. And right now I'm on government assistance, but I actually agree with you. You've got to have skin in the game. Now, I don't know where that franchise should be. But I could argue that I should still be allowed to vote because I am still working a part-time job and I'm looking for jobs and blah blah. But there is a point where, to me, if you are not somehow contributing, you shouldn't vote. I know that's controversial. And like I say, I'm more for spreading the vote to as many people as you reasonably can. But yeah, if you don't have some kind of skin in the game, I agree that you shouldn't vote. And I don't know where those lines are. I know the classical ones are landowners and military, so that's a no-brainer. If you're a landowner or you're in the military, you should be allowed to vote. But I think more people than just that should be allowed, and that's where it gets all thorny. PvP, meanwhile, there are homeless Canadians, drug addicts dying in the streets, homeless veterans, and Carney won't help them. Guerrillas revoke the right to anyone who says they are voting for a certain candidate because they have because they are attractive people. And yes, some people have voted for the lot lizard Newscomb because of that. Oh, gorillas, I love you. I don't know how to respond to that one, but I know what you're saying. Lizzie Armstrong, yes, I do know about Jordan. Political science is a completely different arena academically. Yes, yes, that is true. PvP, millions of politically ignorant Canadians, when they bought into the elbows up stupidity against Trump, 10 years of awful government under Trudeau, and the morons voted in Carney. Resolute Germ, you're better off. Psychology isn't a real science. It's definitely not a hard science. I know that there's some people who would take umbrage with what you say. I don't, but at the very, very least, it's not a hard science. There's so many gray areas and so many fruity definitions and things like that. PvP, Christianity and Judaism are under attack here. Lizzie Armstrong, because Jordan stood his ground, he drew attention. Sometimes integrity may seem to lose, but in the long run, it's worth it. I think, with respect to you, PvP, because you've been making some really great statements too, I think I'm going to make this the statement of the stream. Integrity may seem to lose, but in the long run, it's worth it. And that's kind of the story of my life. I'm going to admit, I'm not going to talk about it, but there are times when I've let my integrity basically go. And I've bowed down to the opposition and tried to keep the peace. And I had all my lofty ideas for doing what I did. But at the end of the day, maybe everyone would have been a little better if I'd have just shown a little more backbone, or if I had, you know, not in a hateful way, but in a caring and reasonable way, if I'd have done a better job making my point. So good stuff. Good statement, Lizzie. PvP says, when I see videos of elite university students spouting propaganda, it's troubling. Integrity. Yeah, I knew what you meant. PvP, they attack Jordan for having his opinions. The far left have a communist mentality. And again, I don't agree with Jordan 100% of the time. I meant what I said on another stream. Within his wheelhouse, I think his beliefs and opinions are very, very strong. Outside of his wheelhouse, sometimes they're not. But the thing is, you're 100% right. He should have the right to have those opinions. He shouldn't just be attacked and canceled and forced to have retraining because he has some bad think. Lizzie saying she understands. PvP saying the liberal government is actively bringing in unscreened third world people, and here we are. One of the heroes of the Gorilla stream, Moira Kitty. Meow meow. Welcome. Another good creator here. Please check out her stuff. She will share with you the things in the news that you probably aren't paying attention to. I know I haven't been paying enough attention lately. Resolute German, immigration should be very limited, even if you could guarantee security. Moira Kitty says things aren't getting better. I was talking mainly about academia, but yeah, things are tough. Things are tough all around. PvP is saying some have even found to be associated with terrorists. Yeah, some of them attack Canadians born here. DJ Ronnie G, let's focus on preventing non-citizens from voting first. I agree with that. Before we worry about the people are on benefits. Let's make sure that it's actual citizens who are voting. Um, more horrified at the idea of anything stopping citizens from being able to vote. DJ Ronnie G. Congress could prop up certain districts and make certain districts broke so they can alter the voter pool. Yep. Just a random idea. Yeah, that's going on all over. PvP Carney has no leadership skills. He's never worked his way up in politics. Most start at municipal level, then provincial, then seat in parliament. Carney did none of that. And without meaning to challenge you, but just a thought that's popped into my head, make of it what you will. Same can be said of Donald Trump. So for what that's worth. PvP overall, Jordan is intelligent and thoughtful. More Kitty, we're talking about Jordan Peterson. That's not really the topic. We just got off on to him. PvP, I've been alive long enough to have witnessed the decline in Western civilization. It sure declined a lot in my time. We are not the country. We're not the West that we were 50 years ago. Gorillas has sent me a debate on X. It's the Culture War episode debating Israel and Palestine. Ooh, thorny topic. I'll get back to the topic at hand. Like I say, I'm going to finish this article that I'm sharing on the internet, and then we'll call it a stream. Federalist paper number 10, which I think is probably going to be either the Federalist paper number 10 or the Article 2 of the Constitution is going to be what I'm going to talk about next time. Federalist paper number 10, written by James Madison. Federalist number 10 argued that a large republic can effectively control factions and protect minority rights. Madison explained that a diverse society dilutes the influence of any single faction, ensuring stability. Basically, that's the main defense of the style of constitution that they developed and integrated. Moore is excited because, yeah, somebody said Israel and Palestine. That's her wheelhouse right there. That's her wheelhouse. PvP Canada has fallen apart since 2015 under liberal government. I definitely feel like the United States has suffered some losses, some reductions in freedom. Definitely in the last 30 years or 20 years anyway. Gorillas, so PvP, since I have no experience in the political system, I have to withdraw my submission to be president in 2028. And now we're getting some laughs, some kitty emojis, and some hearts. Nice. I love you people. All right. Addressing concerns about the Constitution. The papers address nearly all the concerns about the Constitution. In Federalist number 51, Madison noted, if men were angels, and I misquoted, Madison said it, if men were angels, government would not be necessary. All things being equal, I think maybe not all of us, but I think most of us agree that all things being equal, the less government, the better. There may be some of you don't agree entirely with that, and I know that again is all can be matters of debate. The power of the central government. Hamilton argued that a weak central government posed more danger to the nation than a strong one, that without a strong union, the U.S. could fracture into regional confederations that could go to war with each other. Further, the Elastic Clause gave Congress the authority to make laws it deemed, quote, necessary and proper. The Anti-Federalists were not keen on that clause, if memory serves. Madison defended this in Federalist Number 44, arguing it was essential for implementing the Constitution. And, I'm probably doing a terrible job of showing it, but their thought was that the legislature was supposed to be the most powerful branch. The president is powerful, but the legislature is supposed to be more powerful. And we have totally gotten away from that. Whether you're pro Trump, whether you're pro Biden, I would suggest that we've had way too much government by executive order. And again, I'm just saying, I get why Trump is doing what he's doing. Some of it I support, some of it I don't. But we shouldn't be having all these executive orders. We should have a legislature making these laws. Power of the president does need to be strong, though. According to the Federalists, Hamilton defended the power given to the chief executive by the Constitution, arguing the role was not like a monarch. Remember, we had the No Kings protest. Some people were for that, some were against it. But I think most of us in this chat, maybe not all of us, but most of us don't want a monarch. Oh, Moira, what are you saying here? She's saying, you're a big poo-poo head, Curtis. No, she's not. Oh, yes. Thank you. Moira, have I given you a wrench? Let me make sure I've given you a wrench. I may not have. Gosh darn it. I am a bad YouTuber. Hold on a second here. I'm getting into YouTube itself because I don't think I've given you a mod, Moira. Oh, I have. Please share that out in the stream. Moira is doing a thing online where she's voting for being the most Halloweenish person, and she gets some cash and something else. I can't remember what all the prizes are, but please vote for Moira. She's good people, and please, absolutely, Moira, just share that out. If you aren't able to, for whatever reason, let me know, and I'll get it open and share that out. In fact, I'll just do that right now. I need some theme music sometimes. My computer's being a poop head. Why is it? I promise I haven't gone to a porn site in hours, maybe days, maybe weeks. I don't know. As I get older, I can rest on the memories of things that I've seen. I don't need to see more new things. Kitty cats. I'm trying to get to it. Here it is. The Faces of Halloween, Moira McCabe. And let me be sure and vote myself. It's kind of hypocritical to tell you guys to vote and then I haven't voted. I mean, I just haven't voted today. Come on. There we go. Verify with Facebook. Marvel as Curtis stumbles with basic technology. Tired blogging. Oh, I used my free vote recently, but I can vote again in 6 hours. Okay. Fine. My apologies. I would be doing the paid stuff, but I'm unemployed right now. So, freaking internet. Here we go. Faces of Halloween. Moira McCabe. There we go. Sharing that out right now. Oh, she'd already shared it out. All right. We got it shared out. Ha ha ha. The good guys won. Please, if you can afford, send her some love. And if you can't, at least send her a vote to be a face of Halloween. Whoa. The power of the president. They do need to be strong if you're a Federalist. Hamilton defended the power given to the chief executive by the Constitution, arguing the role was not like a monarch because they were elected every 4 years. They have the power. The Congress has the power to override the president's veto, and the potential for impeachment and removal for violating the Constitution. The Senate, Federalist number 62, justified the small size of the Senate as recognizing state sovereignty. A small Senate would enhance public security by checking a single legislative body. The Senate would be less influenced by the sudden and violent passions of state legislatures. That was their argument. The House of Representatives, elected every 2 years, ensuring ongoing input from the public. So the Senate can ignore you a little bit because they are the august body elected every 6 years. But the House of Representatives, the argument is they'd better listen to the people or they're not going to be reelected. Sadly, this is no longer the case. And the Supreme Court, their justifications for a need for it, concerns about the Supreme Court power were countered by jury trials. See, yes, the Supreme Court has a lot of power, but before they can make an edict, there's supposed to be lower court cases, and those lower court cases are supposed to be dominated by the power of the juries. I would say that that's somehow fallen apart. I don't exactly know all the details, but something is screwy in that system anymore. The Supreme Court does not use juries. Their argument was because the focus is supposed to be on the law and the Constitution. They're not really messing with justice per se. They're supposed to be messing with, did this case uphold the law as it stands and the Constitution as it stands? So that is that article. I hope it was at least vaguely informative, and I hope we kept it moderately entertaining. Let's get back to the chat, and then we will call it a stream. Boy, you guys are hopping. Moira Kitty, I'll vote for you. Really, I'd vote for just about any of you in here. Just saying, over a lot of the yahoos that we have. Moira, as long as Gorilla has me appointed as Secretary of Defense. Oh, Gorillas, I want to be, if we bring back the Department of Education, I want to be over it. And if we don't, then I want to be over, I want some kind of spy network. Yeah, not the CIA, because I don't want to be that high and important, but I just want some little spy network so I can do all the devious things I want to do. All right. Gorillas, Moira, you want me to send you that episode? There are purrings. Who would be the vice president? Oh, Moira, you put too much faith in me. I appreciate that, but you put way too much faith in me if you think I should be the vice president. But I appreciate it. You're very kind. Carney spent 10 years in the UK running the Bank of England. A prime minister then has a video on YouTube talking about how he drove the bank into the ground. I hope I would make a decent vice president. I'd make a terrible president. I don't have enough intestinal fortitude, but I hope I would make a decent vice president. I could run around and wave and make speeches and vote on the rare occasion that there's a tie needed. PvP, Carney is not a leader. He's not accomplished one thing since being elected. He spent a lot of time promoting awful legislation and announcing policies that make no sense. Moira Kitty supports most protests. And yeah, one thing about it, you're consistent on that. If people And I agree with you on this. I absolutely agree with you on this. People should have the right to peacefully protest. They should. Um, anything that helps people flex their First Amendment. And then we have Moira here, the Faces of Halloween. Please vote for her. Show her some love, what you can. And here's a video about one of Carney's insane plans. That sounds like a great name for a rock group. Carney's Insane Plans. Anyway, let's check that so I can listen to it after. Oh, you'd already shared this one with me, but I'll listen to it because I don't think I got that one finished. Connie is thanking me. Thank you, thank you. Gorillas, the elected officials are just puppets for the lobbies and the bureaucrats. That's another thing. I mean, the Constitution, it's like everything else that's human. It's not perfect. There are ways to corrupt it. There are ways. Gorillas wanted RFK as the head of the CIA. I wish that either him, yes, I think that would have been fantastic. But, John Pontorero, personal assistant to Tulsi. Yes. Oh, Moira's fallen to fourth place. I'm sorry. Yuck. Moira, not even necessarily peaceful. I can be flexible about that. Right on. I understand. And you can't honor the American Revolution without at least having some ability to think about the flexibility of peaceful protests. But anyway, Gorillas, Moira, put that link in my streams this week. Right on. All right. I'm going to call it a stream. Where's that soft? There's that music. Oh, it's telling me that the rain's stopping. There wasn't any rain going on. Unless it started while I was streaming. Let's thank and promote everybody before we call it a stream. I guess the long and the short of it is legislature should be the strongest branch. We need a strong executive. We need a Supreme Court doing some stuff, but maybe there's some shenanigans going on, which we can discuss more later. And the whole point behind the Constitution is that we are all flawed people. I personally want a government of tired bloggers for the tired bloggers. I get all the money that I want, all the women that I want, all the food, do nothing but stream all day and play D&D all day, but yet I have all the power. For some reason, that government's not viable. I don't know why. Thank you, Lizzie Armstrong, for being here. She's a wonderful creator. You can see some beautiful landscapes of Australia and some other fun things. She has Fifi, that beautiful bird. Check out Lizzie Armstrong. That channel, like many of your other channels, y'all in here, put a smile on your face. PvP, check out his channel. He's got some music going on there. He's often on the panel with Gorillas, Resolute Germ, Mikey Susie 4, DJ Ronnie G, Larry, Be Yourself Adventures. I'm probably missing somebody. Sci-Fi Sith Dan. It's a great community of people. Check him and them out. And you'll be glad you did. Unless you're a troll, in which case we'll just whack you. John Pontorero's putting his toes out in the water with a little bit of creation. He's got a couple of his gigs. He's a musician. He's great with the guitar. He's introduced me to some wonderful music, him and PvP both. Please check him out. And be sure, if he gives you some pharmacy advice, listen to it, dang it. He is a pharmacist by trade. Brains and beauty going on there, John Pontorero. See, he Ede Plebnista. The Star Trek thing. He reminded me about it. I'd forgotten all about it. Oh, Accounting Sheep. Be sure and check out his channel. He's got some wonderful poetry. While we're on the topic of the Roman Republic, he's got an incredible poem that I can't promote enough. Publius. It's about the defense of the bridge, the civil war between the Tarquins and the primitive Romans when they were about to get the Republic going. Beautiful stuff. But he's also got a lot of other poetry and some really fun parodies. His channel will make you smile, or it'll offend you. But me, I always find it makes me smile. I was tempted to make this the comment of the stream. Hold down, I'm just now getting an update. We found a truck full of mail-in ballots. Turns out the Constitution was not ratified. That was, I think, my humble opinion, nearly the funniest comment of the stream right there. Gorilla's Random Thoughts, playing Whack-A-Troll with the best of them. Hoping to find that balance between the kind heart and the closed borders. But check out his material. He's got those cigar lounges. He's got watch parties. There are very few watch parties as fun as Gorilla's Random Thoughts. He's doing... I'm having a senior moment. He's doing Twilight Zone. He's doing the Waltons. And he often has a Sunday surprise theater, which is usually just fun. Just fun. But a Purple Ezra Carter, who, by the way, was the person that sent a $5 super chat. Happy Labor Day weekend to all of you. I know you've all worked hard, so thank you and God bless you. I don't remember if you have any content on your channel, but this gentleman is an actor. Pretty soon we'll be all able to say we knew him when, and that will be awesome. Okay, I don't want to miss nobody. Dooby Scooby Scooby Doo. DJ Ronnie G. He's got a lot of sci-fi stuff and other informative videos going on there, off and on the panels with Resla Germ and Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Check him out. You'll be glad you did. Tell him the Tired Blogger sent you, and he'll maybe respond back. I don't know. Please check out DJ Ronnie G, another wonderful creator and one of the great mods. Connie Cleary, really expert at the Whack-A-Troll game. I wonder how many levels you've got, Connie. Please check out her channel. She's got those wonderful bird videos with the Enya music and the soft soothing music. It'll put a smile on your face and probably put you to sleep if you watch enough of them late at night. But she also has some crafty videos, and she is in Dino's community, the Late Night Horror Show. So check her out. Scooby-Doo. Did I miss anybody? It seems like, oh, there's one more. Yes, there is one more. I'm getting there. Slowly but surely, I'm scrolling. Keep them doggies rolling rawhide. This is a good comment too. Risk is our business. Suzanne, meet you all the way. Susanna, yeah. Check out her channel. Prayers for you, love for you, Suzanne. Hope you are doing okay. I don't think there's many of you. I think most of you, if not all of you, are on my prayer list. So I'm trying to get back to I doubt that I'm not going to become a saint anytime soon. I still love boobies. They're just really cute birds, you know? And this, I think, was one I decided arbitrarily was the quote of the stream. I know I can't find it. I know I'm getting close to it. Basically, I guess I'll paraphrase it. You got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Ah! People are texting me. Here it is. This may not have been what I'd chosen, but it's a dang good quote. Because Jordan stood his ground, he drew attention. Sometimes integrity may seem to lose. In the long run, it's worth it. And we have Moira Kitty. Meow meow to her, and please check out her material. She has the news stories that probably are often I would not be paying attention to it. She digs in there. She finds the cool stuff, and she also has some really fun watch parties. So please check her out, and also she's got a thing for you to vote for, Faces of Halloween. I think it's lower down here. Please vote for her. Get her back into that top spot if we can, or at least closer. There it is, facesofhalloween.org. Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And Booger 414 got in here just minutes ago. I got here a couple of hours late. That's okay. It's good to see you, Booger. And I can't remember if you have material. Yeah, check out this channel anyway. It's all sub to each other. Moira Kitty, I was actually just about to use the American Revolution as an example. I think it's the best. And sometimes I almost wonder if it's the only good example, but Booger, glad I got here in time to like it. I'm glad you are here as well. Moira Kitty, just reading these last few comments and we'll call it a stream. Sadly, the three branches of our government are now Hollywood, the military-industrial complex, and the AIPAC. Yeah, not wrong. Not wrong. Booger! Troll hunters. Connie wants to be Secretary of Animals and Nature. Nice. John Ponerero wants to rock. We'll make him Secretary of Rock. Rock on. Please vote for Moira on the Faces of Halloween. She needs the prize money. As someone who is broke at the moment, I can absolutely feel for you. Oh yes. Although, yes, the protest in the 30s of the World War I veterans protesting at the Capitol. That was a. I would suggest. I think that was a righteous protest. And while it really didn't end happily, at least some good did come out of it. So, and it did devolve into violence because the government fired the first shot. Well, arguably. They didn't really fire the first shot, but they sure overdid things. John Ponerero just voted, and Moira is giving John a hug. So I don't really want to go into a big long spiel of goodbye or anything. I want y'all to know you're smart enough to run your own lives. You do not need big governments, big corporations, any big organization telling you what to think or what to say. I love all of you. I'm praying for you. And at the end of the day, all I've really got to say is spoon. Have a wonderful day.